There we go.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Hey, y'all.
I am Ashley from Last Call Catfishing,
And I am Julie with Run and Gun Catfishing.
and tonight we have with us a legend, Mr. Steve Douglas.
How you doing, ladies?
We're doing well. We're happy to have you here.
Yes,
Thank you.
we are.
So let's see.
What are we talking about tonight?
All kinds of things. We're going to talk conservation,
Okay.
where your start came from, how you got started. There's lots of things to learn about Mr. Steve Douglas. I think there's a lot of new people that I've met that are newer to the catfishing world in general, so they may not know as much about you as maybe some of the ones that have been around. I just started catfishing myself about 2 years ago, but it didn't take long to figure out who you were.
Oh.
So why don't you tell us about yourself, where you're from, and where your start kind of came from?
I'm from Kentucky, and I started probably around catfishing around 2000. I come from a bass background, but got tired of that, so I went into catfishing, and that's kind of where it started. About 2007, 2008 is when I really got on. I didn't know what a computer was till about 2007, so that's kind of when I got on social media and started doing a few things.
Yeah. So did you start on YouTube? Is that where you got your start, kind of, or did you have a different platform at that
Well,
time?
there was a platform back in the day called the Brotherhood of Catfishing. It's probably one that is a we call it a message board. I don't even think they have them anymore. But we started there, and I kind of hooked up with a couple guys, some younger guys, and took them out fishing. And he did a YouTube video, and I didn't even know what YouTube was. And I thought, well, I'd like to do that too. So I started on that, and um, pretty much, I guess I was the besides one other guy that was putting catfishing videos out with limb lines. I'm the first guy that started catfishing on YouTube and showing people how to catch them. So
That's awesome. An
been a
OG.
long time,
Yeah.
I guess.
So let's see. Ashley, do you have any specific questions off the top?
So where's your favorite place to fish?
One of my best, I guess, Gallipolis, Ohio, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That's a good piece on the Ohio River. I like that, but I also like the Tennessee River as well. I don't fish the Ohio River as much as I used to because the ramps that are used to have kind of went downhill and they weren't taking care of them. So if I have to drive an hour and a half one way to get to the Ohio River, I'm gonna go ahead and drive 3 hours to go to the Tennessee River.
Right.
Is that fishing math for you?
Yeah.
That's fishing math right there, guys. So what are your go-to techniques for catfishing? What's your
Probably spin drifting
Mhm.
is my number one on the Ohio River and Tennessee River, and then dragging and of course anchoring.
Mhm.
But I kind of put suspend drifting on the map when I showed people how to do it back around 2007. There wasn't a whole lot of people doing that. And that was my um, start to fame, I guess, was the suspend drifting.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yep.
Good deal. So Ashley and I have been digging deep into conservation. I think after the Catfish Conference, we got together this year and kind of educated ourselves through other people that put out YouTube videos or are working behind the scenes with the
Mhm.
cat conservation and just things that I had no idea about. And so that's why we started this podcast. We decided that this would be a good way to help educate other people that might be interested in knowing a little bit more about ways to help or just bringing awareness to different areas, but in a respectful, fact-based, educational way. So, is there any changes you'd like to see in catfishing efforts, maybe with conservation, or is anything you've noticed in your years of catfishing, just out on the water all these years?
Well, the decline, I mean, back in 2010, I did a video because I noticed the decline in the big fish he was catching. Like I say, from about 2001 to 2008 or 9, we was catching big fish. But in 2010, I noticed things were going downhill. So I did a video back then doing that, and that kind of sparked the first movement. Because back then you could catch 100 pounders and put them in a boat and take them home if you wanted to. There was just no regulations at all.
Mhm.
So I think we fought. I mean, Justin Browning, he was one of them. There's several of us that got on and fought for this. And I think we got some things changed around 2014. It wasn't what we wanted, but it was a start. And, you know, the fishery is starting to come back, but it still irks me to see these pay lakes with all these big 40, 50-pound fish being put in them. I'd like to get something done with that as far as regulations are concerned. I mean, it doesn't seem like the pay lakes are as concerned about regulations as we are.
Right.
Now, once they deplete the rivers and they have nowhere else to go, you know, the pay lakes are going to start declining. But until then, they're going to take everything they can out, I don't like it because they take a lot of these fish during the spawn.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we're ever going to get those laws changed because hand fishing has been around for years and it's pretty popular. And I've talked to some of the commissioners and stuff, and they're not going to get rid of the hand fishing. There's just no way to do that. But you know, I'd like to be able to put some kind of regulations on the commercial guys catching them in that particular period.
Mm-hmm. So there are some efforts that, talking with David Arnold from last week, that they are trying to work with. So bringing awareness to kind of how legislation has to be changed and things like that. It's a process that has to be followed. So that's been nice to kind of educate ourselves on, Ashley and I, on that. They are working on some legislation amendments for Kentucky. So, but it's not in the House or in the legislature yet. So that's why we're happy to kind of give a platform and a voice publicly to this during these lives. So we appreciate you joining us to do that here.
Well, one thing that you did touch on and mention, I think that's the way you're going to have to approach this. You're going to have to, you can't, just because a guy fishes a pay lake, you can't go in there and call him an idiot because he's fishing a pay lake, or he's no less of a fisherman because he's fishing a pay lake.
Yep.
That's just going to make him mad, and he's going to fish more pay lakes. But I think if we come at it at a little different angle, you know, and educate them. I don't know if they're even interested or not. All they know is they can go catch a big fish. But there's several guys that fish from boats now that actually come from pay lakes that just do not agree with it now. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's it. That process of educating people is important. And, you know, I think that's one thing that Charlie, we were on a podcast last week and we discussed how that's where he started. That's where his family took him, you know. And just bringing more awareness to the ethical ways that it can be done is, I think, what the goal is here, because, you know, a lot of people don't have access maybe to waterways that aren't, you know, or are public rather than, you know, just these pay lakes. So, let's see.
That is one of the things
they've made a business out of it as far as, you know, tournaments and things like that. I mean, I get it. You know, everybody loves a tournament, but it's not a renewable source that they're taking and using these tournaments as. So they keep having to replenish. That's not the way to treat it, I don't think. If they could take care of their fish, and if they could take care of their fish, I think it'd be a little bit different. But I don't think they take care of their fish.
No, not in most. Not, I don't want to say most or all or whatever, but in some cases, I've seen it firsthand, unfortunately.
We are trying to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to try to get some more public access along the riverway, because
they need that. They really do.
Yeah, that's what we hear a lot of, you know. And when you watch the videos from the pay lakes, it's people that don't have access to a boat or a way to get out on the river, so they go to these places because it's convenient for them. And if we help open that up to them, maybe that'll help.
Well, I'm going to look for a bank spot after I got my line cut by somebody on Tuesday or Monday, I guess it was. And I just couldn't find a place that I felt like maybe I'd be allowed to go, in which, you know, I'm new to this. I'm used to being the passenger princess on the boat, but I felt kind of silly. I don't know where to go. So I finally just went home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
It was,
that is a good idea, giving people more access to the wild rivers rather than having to go to a pay
Mhm.
lake.
yeah.
I think the anglers that would do that and catch a big fish from the wild river would definitely see a difference between a 50-pound pay lake catfish and a 50-pound wild river catfish, as far as the way it fights and all that.
I
Right.
think you're 100% right. Actually, somebody was saying something on social media to me about it, and that does fish at Pay Lakes. And I said, I'd love to take you out on our boat just so you can see what we mean, you
Hmm.
know. So I don't know where they're from, but so what was the single most effective action that moved the needle forward on this issue, in your opinion?
I'm not really understanding the question. I'm an old country boy, so I don't.
Um, it's a
Dave,
comment from Dave Oliver.
The most effective action. Well, I mean, us old schoolers, starting the process of going from all the catfish you can put in your boat and take home to what we have today.
Mm-hmm.
In the process, that was the hardest probably thing going, because you tell these commissioners, they have regulations on deer and turkey and muskie and all this other stuff, but they just don't want to pay attention to the catfish. But the catfishing industry on the pay lake side, I think they have lobbyists and stuff with the commercial fishing side of it. So we don't have lobbyists. We just got a bunch of old rednecks out here trying to do some stuff. And we've done some things right and we've done some things wrong. But like I say, we're just fishermen. We're not lobbyists or anything like that. But yeah, we've made a few changes over the years. It still needs to be more. But I'm glad some of the younger guys are taking the reins and taking what we've done and adding to it and making it better. I'm here to help all I can, but I am just so busy with business and the Catfish Conference and everything else I do. I don't even hardly get to go fishing anymore. So
Yeah, it makes it hard. You've got a busy life.
yeah,
See. Do you think there's some more ways that we can bring awareness to ethical catfishing practice? Is there more things that you think that I feel like, and you probably feel the same way. Catfishing seems to be really exploding. It probably has been for quite some time for you, being that you've been
mhm.
a part of it for longer. What kind of advice would you give to the more people that are jumping into, especially the social media side? Is there any kind of advice you give to bring awareness? Like, do you
I think we just touched on it a few minutes ago. Don't tell people they're idiots for or call names or belittle them because they fish a pay lake. I mean, educate them a different way. Offer to take them out and say, hey, let's go out and let me show you this, rather than I've seen so much of that stuff, and it irks me that people will do that to other people.
Yeah.
But
that is the
that's
one
only
thing that like we really try to do here is we try to keep our comments positive, not to be disrespectful, not only to us, but to our guest and anybody that's commenting, because like you said, you never know what their story is as to why they're going, or if they even know what's going on there and where those fish come from and how they're treated. So
right.
we really try to work on that with
Well,
this.
back in the day when we first started, a lot of these pay lakes, I know a lot of the pay lakes today know what they're doing, but back when we first started, there was a lot of mom and pop pay lakes that, all they knew is they could call a guy and they'd bring him fish. They didn't know where they was coming from, or maybe even thought they were raised from a farm. But nowadays, I think most of these pay lakes know where they're coming from. And it's going
Mm-hmm.
to really take some pay lake owners to jump on board a little bit with us on conservation as well, if they want to keep, fish in their pond.
Yeah.
I don't. I'd rather them not do it. I'd rather just see channel cats in there, farm raised channel cats. But I understand a man wants to catch a 50-pound fish. But I promise you that 50-pounder you catch out of the river is going to give you a much better fight than that 50-pounder you just drag in like a log at a pay lake. Now, a
Absolutely.
fresh one might give you a fight, but most of that's out of him by the time he's caught 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they probably are not as strong when they are not having a regular source of food anyway.
Yeah, and all that chemicals they put in the lake and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
What role do you think social media and tournaments play in promoting conservation? versus harming the fishery. We talked about this a little bit on Saturday. Do you think that there's improvements that could be made, maybe whether it's the social media side or the tournament side, or do you think that it's done pretty well? And this is just mostly because we're trying to bring awareness on everything. We're tournament anglers. I think all of us here are, but it was brought up last weekend. So it was a pretty good question. Do you think there's different rules that maybe might be considered to help promote the health of a fish, or do you think that they're ran pretty well?
Well, one thing, and I'm probably going to make people mad, but there's a tournament around every tree, all up and down the Ohio River, everywhere. There's tournaments everywhere. I don't know how to curb that because everybody wants to fish a tournament and they've got them in their certain little areas. That may be hurting the industry or the fisheries a little bit, because I know some of those grassroots tournaments are not taking care of the fish as well as the more professional tournaments that are out there. As far as awareness, I think the tournaments are doing good. I know some tournaments get the DNR and the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife to come out there on occasion to check them out and see what they're doing. But the live wells is another thing. I've seen so many live wells just be horse tanks in a boat with an aerator, and the fish still might be moving his gills, but is that fish going to live when he gets it out there? The guy's having fun fishing the tournament, but I think his responsibility is to also take care of that fish so that it will swim off and somebody else can catch it another day. But for the most part, the larger tournaments are doing okay. They're measuring and making sure that all the fish are all right. They require oxygen in the live wells and stuff, but it's the little grassroots ones, which I'm not banging on the little grassroots ones. But if we could concentrate on maybe getting them to do better with their live wells, that might help some stuff too. Y'all asking some good questions. I wasn't prepared for all this.
Are getting you thinking.
Yeah.
We do have another question over here. It's from Dave All Over. How much would you say the sport of catfishing has grown since the early 2000s? That's a good question, Dave.
I'd say it's grown 1,000%.
Yeah. Well,
so.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of that. It was a question I kind of thought of, not that long ago. It was before we had even asked you to do the podcast. What was the attendance? Do you know the attendance from the first Catfish Conference-ish versus the most recent one?
The very first one we had, I was sponsored by a boat dealer, and they asked me, said, "Hey, do you think you could get a few people here for like a little festival or get together so they could sell some boats?" And I thought that I could probably get 200 people there. We ended up having about 1,500 people from all over the United States show up.
Wow, for the first one, that's amazing.
First one, yeah. And then last year, I haven't checked the numbers for this year. I think the numbers were about the same, but last year we had about 13,000, a little over 13,000 people from all over the United States. We had one from South Africa and one from the UK.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, but it's gave, I don't want to say the conference. I guess the conference has played a little role in that, but when I first started, there was just tangling with catfish rods and monster rod holders and just a few other people. Now you got all kind of. I had 130 vendors at the Catfish Conference this year, so it's opened opportunities for the industry to grow. And you see baits out there now that you used to never see, the little demon dragons or whatever, rattles and different hooks and different rods now. So it's really grown, and I think we've needed that over the years, and I'm kind of proud to be a part of that.
Yeah. Catfish Conference.
One of the things that we've talked about with the Catfish Conference is that one weekend a year, anglers from all over the United States and other countries come together and they just have fun. You talk about fishing, you share your stories. Yeah. And if we could get all of those people that are there love of fishing to jump on board with conservation and care as much about the fish as they do about their fishing stories and their tournaments that they've won and all of that, we might actually make some progress on this.
Well, I've offered anybody that wants to do it. I can't do it because I'm so busy putting it on, but I've offered, a free booth for anybody that wants to come in, and they've took me up on that before, and it seems like they've gotten like 2,500 signatures and things like that. But I've got a free booth for anybody who wants to come in there and help spread the word of the Catfish Conservation.
All right, y'all, you hear that?
One thing I've noticed though, I can put a video out, and it's anybody. It could be Catfish Dave, it could be any of these big YouTubers. You put a conservation video out, and you'll get 300
The least
views.
amount of views. Mm-hmm.
You get catching a big fish, a catfish on chicken, and you're gonna get 10,000 views. So it's really gonna be up to the people to step up a little bit more than what they're doing. A lot of people's got a good game on Facebook, but I've seen over the years with meetings, like guys will say, I'll be there, we'll be there in force, and then 2 days before, I gotta work, I can't be there, I gotta work. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, a lot of us that make it have to take off work to go do that.
Yeah,
it's going to take a little bit more people's interaction to help, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I know Mr. Jeremy Chase is really big in that. He's trying to get people together already for next year to help with a conservation booth, and he says we're going to do it this coming year. So,
well, we got it there for you, and I wish you all the luck in the world. We'll have the people there to put in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an experience. If you've not been to the Catfish Conference, I always tell people it is worth the trip. I did not know what to expect. I thought it was going to be Charlie and I there. We were going to work a booth last year and help somebody, but they couldn't end up making it. And I said, Charlie, are we going to look silly walking around there like lurking because there's nothing else to do? No, it was amazing. Like, just the amount of people that knew who we were at that point was just incredible. So you guys, it's like a big old meet and greet. So now we encourage you, if you have the time, to help with the conservation booth. We'll get you up to date on everything. So you know what
y'all had a booth this year, didn't you? Run and gun?
Yeah, giant tamer and run and gun. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I think I stopped by your booth a time or two, I think.
Yeah, it was busy. It was busy. I didn't know what to expect, so I was thankful for the turnout.
Yeah, a lot of folks get to come there to see people they only chat with on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. So it's kind of, I've heard it be called like a family reunion. I mean, it kind of is. Everybody's happy. Everybody, love to see each other. And,
that's
a lot
true.
of people spend money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, bring a wagon. That's what some people said they learned from the previous year, is that they needed to bring a wagon.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Let's see. There's been 2 times I can remember. Oh, okay. So someone was talking about how in a comment that meeting times when they change and stuff, that makes it difficult. So,
yeah, it does make it difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, how has catfishing gear evolved? I know we said it has changed and there's more out there, but how has it evolved over the years, in your opinion?
I don't know if the equipment's involved any. I mean, you got more different equipment, but I think the anglers have gotten better over the years with the equipment they're able to use. When I first started, there was no such thing as dragging. You do a Carolina rig like Santee Cooper rig and drag a little bit, but now they've got planer boards. I mean, people have put some thought into it, thought outside the box, and brought new techniques to the industry. I know some people are even catching them on artificial bait now, like flatheads and such. So, but yeah, I don't know that. I don't know the equipment's involved. I mean, it might be a little bit better. There's more equipment out there to be offered to different people. You've got 10 different rod manufacturers now. You've got a lot of reel manufacturers. But it's been really cool to see it grow over the years. I mean, from starting from the first 15 vendors we had at the very first one to 130 vendors that we have today.
So yeah, that 1,000% seems accurate.
I would say it was, and I can remember I was going to try to get a video, but our second one we did, I was doing around. This was at the Crown Plaza, and I was kind of doing interviews with the guys, and I can remember them saying that they can see in 10 years this thing is going to explode. I mean, you guys may not see it exploding right now, but I've kind of seen it explode over the 20 years I've been in it.
Yeah.
You guys are new. And I love to hear that everybody says it's really growing and it's really stepping up its game. But it has been doing that for years. And I wish we could move forward with the conservation a little bit more than we have. But that's kind of been stuck in lingo right there. But I think that is one because the commercial guys that are fighting us, have lobbyists, and we don't. We don't have the money to pay lobbyists to do what they got to do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to read a few of the comments too.
Sorry if I'm losing connection because it is a little bit on my end. We're in the middle of like the bad ones. I don't know if y'all have the bad winds where you're at, but my Starlink's struggling. So if you lose me, that's what's going on because it just went black on my end. Sorry about that. Yeah. Ashley, you got any more conservation questions, sister?
Why do you think it is that people won't jump on the conservation, but they will like anything else? Like they always say that negative news spreads faster than positive news. Why do you think that is in the catfish world? Like why are people afraid to talk about it?
Well, I don't know if they're afraid to talk about it. I think when you get on social media, people are getting on there to relax and not think about things like conservation. They want to see big fish. They want to post their big fish. I think that's really the key right there. I think most of them really care about it, but I'm not sure how many of them are going to, make efforts to move forward with it. That's just kind of what I've seen over the years. A lot of people, like I say, they'll get on board with it, but when it comes time to really get into the nuts and bolts, it kind of goes quiet. And there's a cycle every year. This happens every year. I started the cycle a couple of weeks ago showing some big flatheads. It got like all kind of views and shares, and it got a lot of conversation going. And that's what we need, bad or good. But I just think it's I don't know how to put it. I think people want to, but they want to post stuff that they want to post on Facebook rather than posting something like conservation, like a big fish. They want to hope they're big fish.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know we've been in touch with a few people that have been in this conservation fight for quite a while, and they're more than happy to get on the phone with Julie and I, and they'll talk to us and tell us what we need to do. But when it comes to like, would you be willing to come on with us and like share your information with us? They're like, well, I can't do that. I have a business. But the reality of it is Julie's running a business and we are part of a veterans organization. So like it can affect all of us. You know what I mean? We all have to be careful how we approach this. And like you said, being thoughtful and respectful gets you a lot farther than being negative and disrespectful.
Well, believe it or not, I've got a lot of hate over the years for my efforts in conservation. I could go in a big, deep rabbit hole on that one, but I'm not going to. But yeah, I don't know. People seem to think I got different viewpoints. I mean, I've always said, there's commercial fishermen out there that fish for the small fish, and I don't want to take anything away from them guys. They make a living, they work hard. And then you got them guys out there that are particularly chasing these big fish just for these ponds. And that I think is not the right thing to do. So I don't really have anything bad to say about commercial guys that are doing it right. But there's a lot of guys, I don't want to call names or nothing because I just said don't do that. But there's a lot of folks out there that is not doing things right. Yeah. According to what, they, too many big fish out of the river and that many over their limits. I mean, you had a couple guys on last week that were really knowledgeable. Justin's been on the forefront of this for a long time. The Dave guy, I guess he's new. I think I've seen a video of his, but I love the fact that this new guy is coming on. If I'm not as versed in this stuff, and I don't keep up with as much as Justin does. It's Justin's passion to do this, and he's probably got the time to do it. It's my passion as well, but I got to keep businesses rolling. But I don't mind voicing my opinion. You know, that's what my business is about. I've made my living on catfishing, so I'm not for the pay lakes. Keep taking the big fish out and keep replenishing their lakes after they kill a bunch of them. That's just not the way it should be. So I understand some of the guys have businesses, but if you're making money in the industry, I think you should voice your opinion and help the conservation part of this. Else I'm not going to have nothing to sell to nobody. Nope, you know, catfish are gone. Who am I going to sell to?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Dave's actually watching right now.
Talking about the ACA in here too. That's another thing that people need to understand. The ACA is one guy that has an idea. There's several guys in. I think CRC has something to do with it. There's several guys do it, but just because you get on the internet and say, "Hey, we're the American Catfish Association. We're going to do this, this, and this," people expect miracles really quickly, and it's just one guy that is trying to do the work of a bunch of people, and I've seen it happen over the years. But this stuff is going to take time. You can't do things overnight. It's like, well, I don't even want to bring politics into it, but you know, Trump got in. He's supposed to change the prices of stuff. You know, we got to give him a little time to get that done, but people expect it should be already done. So it's the same way with the ACA. I mean, he's done a lot. He's brought a lot of this to the forefront of things. He's doing a lot of good stuff with it, but it's going to take more than just him. It's going to take the community behind him to help do this stuff. That's just the bottom line. The community is going to have to get more involved in this.
Yeah. Dave says thank you. I don't know if you saw his comment or not, but he's watching. He works second shift, so it's hard for him to be a guest during the week, but he does try to pop on when we're on here. So just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Well, we need guys like him that are knowledgeable, that wants to do the research and continue doing what us old dudes did. I mean, I turned 61 this year, so when I started this, I was in my 50s and feeling pretty good, but now I've had open heart surgeries and things like that, so I'm kind of settling down a little bit more than what I used to.
So Tabitha, after every tournament we fish, we walk down to the ramp to make sure all fish swim away. It could be something as simple as burping a fish to save it. We don't want to be a part of tournaments that don't practice proper fish care. It's a good comment. You can bring a fish out and look at it. Okay, so we got a couple more comments over here.
I think we should all, as anglers, when we fish tournaments, should have that mentality. You know, like your fish care is not just when you're catching the fish and you're landing the fish and you're taking it up for pictures, but, you know, you should want that fish to be able to swim off for the next person to catch it. It's not just so you can collect your check and go brag to your buddies that you caught the biggest fish. So I don't know. Julie and I have talked a lot about that. What we can do is
it's the same thing with just the average fisherman. You know, you catch a big fish, then you know you gotta get it up, waller it all over you, and you know these things have a slime coat on them, and you can see it. And a lot of times when you overhandle that fish, you can see that slime coat is gone because it's divoted down a little bit. You know, so that's you know, kind of watch how you handle them when you're just fun fishing and catching them. Try not to handle them too much and rub against your shirt where that cotton is going to absorb all that slime coat. They need that slime coat.
Yeah. Ashley Bradford said, I love this conversation so much. And that's, you know, that's why we're doing this. And that's why we're trying to get people that are knowledgeable, that have been doing catfishing for so long, to bring more awareness, because there's not a lot of people talking about it. Posts are being shared, sure, like about, you know, one thing or another that we disagree with, or one thing or another saying like the DNR is doing a good job, which is good to see those things. But if we're not teaching or educating the public on how you can help, sharing a post is only just getting that person engagement, really is what that is. So here, we're wanting y'all to understand that calling your legislators, Ashley and I have shared out on the Last Run Facebook page how you can reach out to your legislators in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, correct? Is those the 3 states that are listed on there? And letting them know, calling and telling them, okay, like I want to support anything that is going to help promote the conservation of catfish when it comes up, because there are people in the background that aren't on these platforms, that aren't sharing in podcasts for one reason or another, but we're trying to bring a voice to that. And so, we're happy to do it. So here's what, oh, sorry, I clicked a different one.
So Justin's on, and he says, I truly believe we have made great progress throughout the years, and I believe we will see more as the years go on with social media. The sky's the limit on where we can go, and it's definitely going to take us, all of our voices, to be a huge asset.
Yeah, we've got to get more community involvement, that's for sure. But like I say, social media, I don't know if when people are on social media, they don't want to listen to it. Like say with the videos, I can put a video out on conservation, nobody's going to watch it. They want to see fun action. I don't know how to combat that, whether it be a website we can send them to, something to sign. I'm not sure. That's a good question, because we've been doing it. Like I say, I started the first video in 2010, and I think it was 2013 maybe when we had our first meeting with Kentucky down at Kentucky Lake, and then 2014 I believe is when we had the big meeting that got a few things changed. We've had some awesome meetings before, and we've had the cops called on us before. When we first started in here, Justin, I think Justin was there too. They pulled the popo in there on us and run us out of there. Not just us, because we was on one side of the room, commercial fishing was on the other side of the room, and this was when all this really first started.
Yeah,
so it's been heated
the
before.
Stories you can tell, I'm sure.
Yeah, but like I say, the river's getting better, especially in the Cannleton Pool, and I hope it's getting better up where Justin's at in the Markland Pool, I believe it is. I know they got a new state record out of there last year, 101 pounds or something like that.
Okay.
That was the Ohio state record, I do believe.
Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, some little girl caught it on a limb line.
Yeah.
But that, whether she caught it on a limb line or not, it shows you that there's some better fish up there.
Yeah.
But I'd still venture to say there's not as good a fishing as there used to be up there. I fished a tournament back in 2007. I've got a video on it back there. I'd have to find it, but it wasn't nothing to go out there and catch all the 30 pounders you wanted, 30 and 40 pounders, and that was in the Markland Pool up around Lawrenceburg.
Yeah.
But that's really it takes a special commercial fisherman to go out and rape the river of these large fish. He don't care a bit about conservation, and that's the problem with a lot of these illegitimate commercial fishermen, I guess.
Yes, we have had a commercial fisherman here locally call the DNR on other commercial fishermen. Coincidentally, they thought it was us because we're out there fun fishing, and so we've had an issue before with somebody, but it turned out it was another commercial fisherman that Charlie spoke to, and he's like, no, I catch, he catches what the law allows, and that's it for the day, but it's not like that everywhere. So
well, there's guys out there that are still doing it that's not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think it's also important to go back to not name calling, is there are plenty probably on both sides of that spectrum. So, and like you said, they work hard, they're trying to earn a living and things like that. But let's stick to the laws and, being ethical. We have a comment here from Edward Browning. Even as guides could help a lot more, they're literally making a living off of these fish because, and that's the one thing I was curious. Do you get a lot of support from guides when it comes to the conservation? Do they show up as well? Because that was my thought when we kind of started digging into this. the pay lakes are mom and pop businesses, and that's how they're looked at maybe. And when it comes to these title rules are changing in legislature, that's what we were told. And I'm like, well, are guides coming in and also saying, this is my livelihood as well? Do you think there's a lot of guides that are chiming in and helping with the fight behind the scenes as well?
There has been in the past, but like Tennessee River, I don't know that has a big problem. It's got a smaller problem. It's still there and it's still existing because I know they busted some Kentucky guys from doing it. But the Ohio River, I've seen several of the guides come to meetings in the beginning. It's been a while since I've been to a meeting, maybe a couple years, maybe a year. I'm not sure when the last meeting I was at, but for the most part, it's the same up to 10 guys that are going to these meetings. And it has been for a few years. Now, there was one year, I can't remember what year it was, we were able to rally about 200 guys that we just swamped right down on them. And I don't think the Fish and Wildlife appreciated that, but we did it anyway. And that's kind of when I think they took us a little more serious that way. But I think it's going to take a no transport. I don't know how we're going to, because a lot of the Ohio State pay lakes, Kentucky can't do anything with them. So it's going to be, I think it's really a nationwide problem if you really think about it. Because I know they're going out to Missouri River now. They're going down Mississippi catching things. A commercial guy catching the fish can decimate a pool of water. We've seen it here with the Ohio River.
Yeah.
So I think it's more than just Kentucky, Indiana. Of course, this is the brunt of it. This is where most of the pay lakes are. But I think people really need to be concerned all around the country. Now, that being said, you got people out in maybe Virginia trying to get rid of blue cats. That's not very fair for the angler, but the state seems to think they don't need the blue cats because of the crabs or something. I'm not sure, but I think a large catfish should be protected no matter where he's at, or at least limited to how many you can have.
And regulated.
Like the deer or the turkey or the gators, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've had comments on, is that we're complaining about them taking the big fish and putting them in a pay lake, but there are literally businesses that are buying the big fish to eat. And I don't think that you can compare the two. Do you feel like that's an adequate comparison?
People are buying big fish to eat?
Yeah, that's what they said last weekend on our podcast. We had comments on that.
Just regular anglers?
A viewer. Yeah.
Viewer. Yeah. He said he knew some pay lakes and some commercial guys, and that he knew for a fact that the commercial guys sell more fish to restaurants than they do pay lakes.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to sell them big fish to pay lakes or restaurants. Every restaurant I've ever been to down on Pickwick or any of the Tennessee rivers, they've been the little fiddlers, just the little small fish. And that's what people want to eat. I don't know if you've ever cut open a big 50-pounder before. I have, back in the day before I knew what was going on. And there's membranes in between the flakes of meat I don't want to eat it.
He's like, no, would not recommend.
Yeah. The smaller fish are much better to eat. But if a guy wants to eat a 50-pound fish, as long as he's legal, if he wants to do it, I guess that's his prerogative.
Yeah.
I would hate this. I'm just not into it myself.
Yeah.
I know one of the problems that we have in Ohio is that ODNR tells you that pay lakes are regulated by the Department of Agriculture, and we have emails from the head doctor at the Ohio Department of Agriculture that says that there is not an Ohio revised code that gives them that authority. So there's literally nobody is monitoring what they can do, what they're putting in, how they're treating them, nothing. So it's like an uphill battle with that, I feel like.
Well, that sounds like a task that the younger folks ought to take into their consideration, is figure out how you can get, was it Department of Agriculture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ODNR.
I guess that's a fish farm, so I guess that's part of the agriculture. But I don't think a trophy pay lake shouldn't be considered a farming product.
I know when I talked to the one of the head guys at ODNR, he said that they would like to have that authority, because They have the authority for all, like you said, all other wildlife, deer, turkey, all of that falls underneath them. So a wild caught fish should also be under their jurisdiction.
You would think.
Well, I do know that I don't know if they eat it for human consumption or not, these bigger fish, but I do know that they use a lot of them for dog food, which is a shame.
We learned that too. I didn't know that.
Not either.
So here's what Justin has to say about that. My dog's inside. Sorry.
Justin
So
says,
go ahead.
We are working on getting insight over who's going to have the jurisdiction to regulate pay lakes in Ohio.
That's good.
Yep.
Well, if I can do anything to help that situation, I'll be glad to help. I'd like to say I just can't spearhead nothing anymore. I'm an old guy trying to retire, but I can get the word out, do whatever I can do to help with that matter. But yeah, the commercial guys, they don't care much for me anyway, so I'm not too worried about them. Actually, I was going to the Mississippi River Monsters down in Vicksburg last year, and I was going to stop at Kentucky Lake to get some buffalo carp for bait. And I'd called the guy and I said, "Hey, you got some buffalo?" He's, "Yeah, I got it. Come on in." Well, when I got there, I guess he seen caller ID or whatever. When I got there, I had to go find him, and I said, "Hey, I'm coming here to buy that carp." And he said, "We ain't got nothing for you." I said, "Well, I just called." He said, "I know you did, but we ain't got nothing for you." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "You Steve Douglas?" I said, "Yep." He said, "We ain't got a damn thing for you." So the commercial guys, I mean, I haven't been trying to put them out of business or anything.
Yeah.
But that's the mentality they have against a guy that's trying to just look out for conservation on these fish. So it's a double-edged sword. Needless to say, I didn't get my buffalo carp that I wanted.
Well, that's not very fair, is it? It stinks to have that kind of situation happen.
There's a comment there, Steve. It says, "I hope you're retiring to just fish. We can't lose the OG of catfishing."
Well, I'd love to be able to fish. I'm actually leaving tonight and heading to Nickajack in the morning. I'll be leaving about 2:00 in the morning here. It was 76 down there today, and when I get there tomorrow, it's supposed to be 48. So there's a big cold 35-mile-an-hour wind. But I'm going with another couple that's been trying to fish with me for quite a few years, and we finally made the date, and that's the weather that's going to get us. So we're going to go have fun anyway. But I don't get to fish as much as I used to. I tell you, when you get in the fishing business and you're selling stuff to fishing people, you just don't get to fish as much as you used to.
Yeah.
And the Catfish Conference keeps me quite busy for about 6 months.
I'd imagine. That's probably got to take a lot of planning. Yeah. So, any special plans for Catfish Conference next year that you have in the works, or is it going to be business as usual?
Business as usual. We're going to move a few things around, I guess, and up our game just a little bit, but it's going to be business as usual.
Yeah, I was looking on the layout for this year. I'm like, where are they going to do the talks, the speakers? And I didn't realize it was in a different, I did once I got there, but according to the layout, I was like, where did that go? So I think that was a really smart idea.
It was very
we had
nice.
A lot of people complaining that they couldn't do business because all they could hear is somebody talking in the background. So we moved it out.
I thought it was going to be vice versa. I thought the reason it was moved out so the audience could hear better, to be honest. So I wasn't expecting that, but either way.
A win-win for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But no, we look forward to it every year, and we try to learn from our mistakes. And I've made some mistakes over the years. I've booked seminars on top of seminars, and people go over, and I got to back some seminars up. I've made some people mad, but I do what I can do, and if they don't understand that, then they don't need to come, I don't guess. But I do the best I can.
Yeah, some things are out of your control.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year was my first time I made it to the conference. It was the best fishing show I've been to. So it was
Well,
a good.
we keep it catfish and crappie business. You know, that's one thing I do pride myself on doing. I will not have bedding and windows and gutters and storm doors and all that
Yeah.
other crap that you normally see at a boat show. If it ain't got something to do with catfish or crappie, you won't find it there.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes the show a little bit better. Plus, a lot of people that put on these shows do it for a business. I put on this show as my passion, and I think
Mhm.
passion hopefully shows.
Mhm.
It comes out, so that's why people enjoy it a little bit more. If I was just doing it for money and throwing things in there, I don't think people would have a good time.
Yeah.
So there's a
Now we,
comment from I'm not sure if you know him or not, Roger Dermott, that does Muskrat Adventures on YouTube and Facebook, and he said that he spoke with ODNR yesterday up at Elm Creek. I'm assuming that's what he means by Elm, and got some good information. And Julie and I started a Facebook page called The Last Run, for a conservation page for anybody and everybody to post their conservation efforts, what's going on in your state, locally, just to share information with everybody to try to keep everybody on the same page. So if you guys have information that you're willing to share for everybody to know so we can help all together, that would be great.
Yep. Yeah, share everything over there. Let's see. Bring up. They said bring up Roger. Let's hear it. Let's see. And Jamie Anderson also added back to the Catfish Conference. It was a great time. I was there a couple years ago, and it was great. Come on back, Jamie.
come on back. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of people come to have fun. You know, when you go fishing tournaments, a lot of guys meet at tournaments too. And I will tell you, the tournaments have changed over the years.
Yeah, how's that change? That's a good one.
Well, when we used to fish tournaments back around the 2000s, you had a ramp to go to, and everybody would get there an hour early, and you could sit and talk out in the parking lot. Nobody was in a hurry to get their boat in the water. At the hotels the night before and the night after, everybody just go out and drink a beer and have fun and just talk and mingle. Now it's so serious. I mean, I still fish the Vicksburg down in Mississippi, but we have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, get out on the water. We'll drive 90 miles down river in the dark. And you never hardly even see anybody until the weigh-in. And then that time, you know, people just don't seem like they want to hang out as much as they used to back in the day. But it was really fun, and I miss them days. I really do. But you know, the money's gotten bigger, the competition's gotten better, and I guess that's what comes with the territory is not as much community around the tournaments.
Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the good things about the smaller ones is there in the mornings there's not as much time. Maybe do you agree, Ashley? The mornings there's not as much time, but usually like weigh-ins you do have a little bit more time because there's not as much going through the line, so you do have a little bit more time to like mingle in that way. But yeah, those big ones, those big productions, they are something.
Yeah,
I think it's fun to watch just as a viewer. I like to live stream those as well, and that's what gets the most, like, people love watching those. So that's been a good time. So
the anglers have definitely gotten better over the years. The equipment, I guess, has gotten better as well with the different depth finders and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
But anglers are catching on quick, and they're catching larger fish.
Yes, absolutely. Is there something that, like, when you go to a new water, what is something that you do maybe what's your instinct tell you after all these years of like catfishing? What do you look for? Is there something in particular? Do you use like navionics, or do you just go to areas with?
I use my navionics more than I use my fish finder.
So early.
I look at the mapping and fish the mapping more than I do anything else. Now, when I pull over a piece of water that I like, I'll look and see if there's a fish there, but I don't necessarily have to see a fish to fish what I want to fish.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, navionics mapping is one of the better tools that I've seen come around in the last 10 years.
Good. So, and that, for everyone that doesn't know, that's an app basically on your phone, and you can also get it on the fish finder too, right?
Yeah, that's built into the fish finder, and you get it on the phone. I I tried to get it on the internet the other day. It looks like they've done away with it, but I think somebody bought them. I think somebody bought an avionics like Garmin or somebody.
Oh,
They don't have that web app available anymore.
Hmm.
It was real handy, but yeah,
yeah.
you just kind of find the bait, find out where, and know what season you're in, what the fish should be doing that particular season. If you're going into the fall, they could be up a little shallow or they could be in the deepest part. In the wintertime, you want to look at the deepest part on the ledges. Springtime, they could be in 2 foot of water. And it's really different throughout the country too. I know, like in Texas, I took my skills that I thought I had out in Texas one time, and it's an exact same scenario. It's the Brazos rivers that runs through, and they've dammed it up, and there's ledges everywhere and standing timber. And I went out there and tried to do what I do on the Tennessee River and failed. And then I went to the captain's meeting the night before, and I got schooled on where them fish were. And in Texas,
Mm.
fish seemed to like 2 and 3 foot of water. So we went back up in the buck bush the next day and slammed them in 2 and 3 foot of water. So if you guys are ever out in Texas, can't catch fish, go to shallow water.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Well, here, I think, do you have any more questions, Ashley? I've got a pretty
No,
good.
go ahead.
Okay, so this is a good one, just kind of round it out. Where do you see the sport of catfishing in the next 10 years?
Bigger. I believe it's still going to continue to grow. As far as the conservation part of it, we've kind of been at the same thing we've been at since 2014. So it's been 10 years and we're still kind of where we're at. I would hope that we could find us a loophole to where we could get around some of the things we've been fighting over the years and need to get. But I definitely think the industry's continued to grow. I'm excited to see it grow. I'm going to do my best to make it grow on what I do with the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to take guys like Dave, the younger generation, to do the research. I mean, he seems like he's done some
A
deep
lot.
diving.
Yeah.
and I love that part of it. And maybe he can find some loopholes, and him and Justin can find some loopholes that'll help us get some. I think if we get regulations on the pay lake to where they can't stock all they're doing, 6,000 pounds this month, 5,000 pounds next month. Well, where'd that 6,000 pounds go? They have to stock another 5,000 pounds. That's what we need to get changed, I think, to make things go. But as far as the industry itself, I think it's going to continue to grow.
He's got another. Dave all over. When do we catch bass fishing in popularity?
We ain't going. No. I've seen this for years. We've got some tournament guys out there, but I think there's only about, out of all the cat fishermen in the world, I think there's probably only maybe 15% of them are fishing for tournaments. The rest of them are just good old boys or families, and that's the difference between bass and catfishing. Catfishing, everybody can do it, and it's a family kind of function. To where bass fishing, it's 1 or 2 guys in a boat in a competition. I don't think the competition is as important in catfishing as it is the bass fishing industry.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the catfishing industry is made up of more just regular folks going out having fun, want to sit on the bank or fish from a boat. And I think that's the difference between bass and catfishing. The competition level is way different.
More we use. I'm not saying that, Chris.
There's a comment that says, the more we use bass for bait, the faster we'll catch them, with a bunch of laughing faces.
Well, I think you can use bass for bait in certain states. In Kentucky, you can't even use a crappie head that you caught a crappie, cleaned it, and eat the crappie, and you can't use none of that.
That's right. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to me, but oh well, what can you say?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd want catfishing to get like the bass fishing. I mean, if you guys been on the water before, you've seen the bass fishermen, they're most important guys on the water. They'll come right next to you on the bank flying when you're planer boards, they'll run over your planer boards.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're the most important people on the water. Us poor little catfishermen, we get the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah, we do. Let's go over commercial. 10 years later, the river is worse, huh? Claude's commenting. I don't even, can you guys, okay, I didn't know if I was still connected. It kind of glitched out pretty bad for me, but he was just saying that would be a hard question, honestly. Hoping it would still grow, but if commercial fishing doesn't slow down, look at the Ohio River. Kentucky study was finished just in 2015. 10 years later, the river is worse.
I'm not seeing the river's worse, and I've got a lot of guys that tell me the river's better. I've fished it a few times, and I don't want to say I'm banging it, but you know, I think I'm seeing a little bit better situation nowadays than I was back in 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where Claude is fishing at, I'm not sure, but
Right.
down here in the Cannelton pool and below, fishing seems to be there's a lot more bigger fish being caught.
That's good.
I mean,
Well,
I think what we did in 2013 or beyond has helped somewhat. It's like I say, it's not what we exactly want to continue to move on. We want to make it better, but it has helped for where we were 10 years ago.
well, that's good. Yeah. Because again, my experience is mostly in the Cincinnati area, kind of east of Cincinnati, and then down here in very western Kentucky. And it's night and day, the difference of fishing. You know, we went up and, you know, tournaments up there, we caught 13 pounders all day long. We could not catch anything bigger. But then, you know, the day before that tournament, Charlie puts his mom on a 70 pounder up there in the same area, you know. Yeah, Rising Sun, that was rough. I felt like, but I don't have a lot to compare it to. Just watching weigh-ins as a spectator while Charlie, you know, was doing his weigh-ins. It doesn't seem like they had a lot out of, you know, almost 200 boats. The tournament I went to, there was only so many 50s or 60s caught. But again, my knowledge is not an extent measure. What was it?
Last year, the big fish was only 35 pounds for Rising Sun.
Well, I know I fished a tournament. I fished a tournament early this year with Goldie. I don't know if you know him or not.
Yeah, we know Goldie.
I can't even remember where it was at. It was up above Lawrenceburg.
The Ohio River Monster Challenge, the Monster Cat Challenge.
I think that's what it was. I mean, we caught a lot of fish, but everything was like 15, 20 pounds. We couldn't catch anything more than that. We caught a buku of those fish. But I don't know if it's the area. I mean, because I think that area has been protected even more than what the Cannelton pool down here below Louisville has been protected. So I don't know if it's an issue with still the commercial guys up there that's sneaking behind and really doing some stuff, because they should be really protected in that area.
They're actually not. Like that area, that's where we camp at. And on any given day in the summertime, springtime, fall, you can go out there and watch them set their nets and pull the big fish in. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you need to get some people busted, some undercover.
Yeah, that's what we're working on up there. Yeah, we're trying really hard.
I hate to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know anything Louisville South is a little bit better. But you know, I heard that the Markland Pool has had some problems with channel cat, because you used to be able to go up there and catch some 15-pound channel cats, but now I'm hearing that you can hardly catch a channel cat up there. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's just a bad part of the river, but I do know you can get up in Gallipolis, Ohio, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and the fishing even gets better once you get that far up. So this may be some bad commercial guys doing something in the Markland Pool and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Muskrat Adventures, any part of the Ohio River that's bordering Kentucky is getting hammered. So again, and we want you guys to know that are watching today that there are people that we're trying to bring up and do these conversations with that have a lot of knowledge and have been fighting the good fight for years. and have been educating themselves and learning about what's going on and talking to the people. It takes legislators on your side is what this takes. Someone that knows how to write a bill and legislators that are willing to help push this. And where that comes from is community support, first and foremost, because these are elected officials that need support from the community. And if someone else's voice is louder than ours to, against conservation and for commercial fishing, our voice will not be heard. So we're trying to give a voice to everyone that cares about this sport and the rivers that we're fishing in. So.
Well, I do not see somebody talking about a bunch of nets. Now, I don't know if people are aware of this, and I'm not on the commercial guys side by any means, but there's different commercial fishing guys out there, and the nets that they may see right now are not targeting big blue cats. They're targeting the spoonbills. So if you see big jugs along a channel bend or something, that's what they're targeting. And they may get a big fish in there. Their gill nets is what they are. They may get some byproduct in there, but for the most part, they're trying to catch spoonbills, and they're not interested in the big blue cats. I'm not saying there's not a few that get caught in there, but I know a lot of people go and see these nets and they get all excited about, they're taking everything out of there, but there's different seasons for the spoonbills, and they kind of need to be educated on that as well. Yeah. Not trying to take the commercial side or anything, but
sure, but it's where it's better. Yeah, that's a good note.
Yeah, Jeremy Chase said, "Thank you, Mr. Douglas, for getting on and speaking on conservation as always."
Well, I ain't the smartest tool in the shed on it anymore. I mean, back when I first started, I was hard on it, but in my older age, I've got other things I've got to do, and heart attacks and cancer and things like that make my priorities a little bit different than they were when I was in my 50s. So,
we really appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you.
I said we really appreciate you taking the time to come on here with us tonight and sharing your information.
If I can do anything to help you guys in the background, I'll be glad to do it. Post some stuff, share some stuff, and if you have meetings, I can go to the meetings as well.
Well,
before we get off here, if anybody has any connections for people that are working on this, that are willing to come on here with Julie and I, we'd love to have you on. We love to get different viewpoints and things that are being worked on, because the more information we can share, maybe the bigger the difference we can make. So.
And just let me say this one more time. If you're on the internet, and you see these commercial guys or these pay lakes posting stuff, try not to call them idiots. Be nice to them, or don't even say anything. Just it's better if you share a pay lake, I'm sure 20 of us conservationists are going to share it, but then it's also going to get to 40 of the pay lakers, and it's going to boost the pay lake a little bit more. But I would just try to educate them a little bit more in a civil manner.
I think that is solid advice.
I agree.
Well, I appreciate you ladies having me on. I had a lot of fun. I don't know if I did you any good or not, but
you did great.
Of course.
And you
good
guys
luck fishing.
Yeah. I hope the weather.
You're welcome to set up a booth at the conference and help share some awareness as well, if you'd like to do that.
Yep, we will be in touch about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap things up here. We hope you all have a fantastic Wednesday, and we will see you next week.
Good night.
Thank you.